Topic 1.16 decimals. We're going to learn the place value of digits. We're going to read and write decimals in words, and we're going to write decimals in numbers. So when we think about decimals, we divide into multiples of 10, and if you see the picture below, 3 of these parts are shaded. So as a fraction, we know that this is 3 out of 10, 3/10. As a decimal, it's written as 0.3. Both of them are read to be the exact same. 3/10 in fraction form is equal to 3/10 in decimal form. And so we have to know place value of decimals in order to be able to read them correctly. So knowing place value of whole numbers can really help us when it comes to decimals. What we've got in the center of this image here is a dot, and that dot is our decimal point. And when we read numbers, when we use the word "and", that's supposed to signal the decimal. That's why we want to avoid reading numbers with the word "and" in them, other than when we have a decimal point. And when we look at the right-hand side past the decimal point, these are our decimal place values. The first one actually begins tenths, compared to the whole number where our ones place is first, where this 8 is, and then the tens comes next, and then the hundreds. What we do on the decimal side is we actually skip a oneths place. There's no such thing. We go right to tenths, but then after that it's just the same as the whole number side. It's tenths, then hundredths, then thousandths, then 10,000ths, 100,000ths, millionths. Notice that the THS is being used on the decimal side compared to just an S on the whole number side. So if we were going to read this number aloud, it would be 65, here's our thousands period, 65,218 and 3,479 10,000ths. So on the decimal side, we read the number as we would on the whole number side, 3,479, and where we end up is the decimal place we say. So I'm going to say that number again, 65,218 and 3,479 10,000ths. You may have heard me say a little "and" in before the decimal. That's just bad habit, and we all read numbers a little bit like that. We have to train ourselves to only use the word "and" when we see that decimal point. So I think the biggest help you can give yourself is to make yourself notes so that you can memorize the decimal places, because that's what we need to do in order to read decimals and write them in numbers, write them in words. Okay, so the first position is your tenths place. Next position is hundredths, then thousandths, then 10,000ths, hundred thousandths. And if we had to go one more, then we would go to the millionths place. So we're going to write these numerals in words, only using the word "and" where we see the decimal point. So on the whole number side, we have 17. So we write that, 17. And then here comes our decimal. And we see we have a 1 here. But what position is this in? Tenths, hundredths, thousandths place. 17 and 1 thousandth. 17 and 1 thousandth. For number 2, we don't have any number at all on the whole number side, so we don't have to say 0 and. We can just completely ignore that, and we just go ahead and read this number. This is 145, so that's 145, and we're ending up in that third position in the thousandths place again. So we write the number as 140-5, and we see where we end up. The 5 is in the thousandths place. 145 thousandths. Because of that THS, we know that this is a decimal. When we go the other way, we're still doing the same thing as before. We're identifying our place values on the decimal side: tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10,000ths, 100,000ths, millionths. So I'm just going to put that for myself: tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10,000ths, 100,000ths, and millionths. And that will help me to be able to create my numerals here. So we have 64 and, so 64 and 316 thousandths. So you need to be careful here because we need to end up in the thousandths place. Sometimes we will have to fill in with zeros, so be very careful. 316 thousandths, the thousandths is the third position, so we won't have any zeros here. So as a number, 64.316. Okay. For number 4, we have 48 10,000ths. So now we have to be careful. We don't see and, so we know that there's no whole number. There's our decimal, 48 10,000ths. Well, here's my tenth, hundredth, thousandth, 10,000th. Fourth position is where I have to end up, but I only have 48. So the 48 is going to go here, and I'm going to fill in with 2 zeros. And this is the way that I do this, so that I don't make any mistakes. I make those dashes for the place value underneath, fill it in, and then if I want, I can rewrite it without those dashes. Now it's time for you to complete exercise 1.6, but if you'd like some more support, if you'd like to do the exercise with me, you can keep watching this video. So exercise 1.16, we're going to write these numerals in words. So before I even start, I'm going to make my decimals, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make my places. And this is good practice for me for my memory. Every time that I write something down, I'm going to be remembering it better than if I just looked at it. So the action of writing helps me to memorize. Tenths place, hundredths place, thousandths place, 10,000ths place, 100,000ths place, and millionths place. That's going to help me when I write these numerals in words. So for number 1, I have 6 on the whole number side, and I have 5, and that 5 is in the tenths place. So I have 6 and 5 tenths. For number 2, I only have 27, but the 27 is way out here. It's in the 4th position. So it's ending at the 10,000ths place. So I don't have to say 0 and nothing like that. I just go right ahead to write the number I see, 20-7, and then I state the position that this 7 is in. It's in the 4th position, 27 10,000ths. For number 3, I do have whole number, 20. So I have 20, and this 4 is not in the tenths place, it's in the hundredths place. So 20 and 4 hundredths. Now we're going to go the other way. We're going to write these words into numerals, but still our strategy remains the same. So we are going to tell ourselves tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10,000ths, 100,000ths, millionths. The first one is 7/100ths. So I set up 0, decimal. Hundredths is in the second position, and I only have 7, 0.07. For number 5, I have 3 and 4/10ths. 3 and 4/10ths. Tenths is my first position, so my 4 is going to go in the tenths place, 3.4. Number 6, 25,000ths. Okay, so here I might want to make my positions. The further out you go, the better the strategy is. So tenths, hundredths, thousandths, that's my third position. I only have 25, so that's going to end up in the thousandths place, and I'm going to fill in that extra spot with a 0. So 0.025, 25,000ths. And for number 7, I have 7,200 and 5/100ths. So let me get my whole number first. 7,200, 7,200, and decimal point 5/100ths. And we know tenths, hundredths is the second position. So the 5 is going to go in the hundredths place, and we're going to fill in the 0. So we're going to end up with 7,200 and 5/100ths.